Welcome to another episode of the When Life Happens podcast. I'm your host, William Jackson, and so excited because we have another opportunity to live, learn, and grow together. And I'm excited because this episode is a continuation from the last one where we actually dove in and highlighted specific ways in order to create, to establish, and to implement an energy budget. We started the conversation of how oftentimes we are specifically intentional about how we budget our money and our time, but we often don't take the intentional moment to slow down, to take an inventory of how much energy we have available. Here's my question for you. How much energy do you have available right now? If you had to plug up to one of those devices that will show where your battery level is, where would it be? Here's a bigger question. Where do you normally operate throughout the week? What is a consistent operating process or standard or level for you in order to achieve what you need to achieve throughout the week? Are you one of those people who get a good night's rest, wake up feeling refreshed, and you start every day on 100%? When you think about it, even from the aspect of your phone, one of the things that happens consistently throughout my house is that we oftentimes, because we're running a lot, we may miss the little things, the subtle nuances of vital things that we need in order to be set up for success for the next day. For instance, we could come into the room after a long day, put our phones on the charger and leave it, set it and forget it, and not even see that the charger was never plugged in. So have you ever done that? Where you put your phone on the charger and you know that you plugged it in, just to wake up and see that your phone is on 12%. And you're like, I charged my phone all night, but we didn't see that the charger may have been connected to the phone, but it wasn't plugged into the outlet. So when we look at the process of being plugged up, we think that we're good because we're attached. But if what we're attached to is not providing us a source of energy, then we're just going through the motions. And you can imagine the frustration or even the angst that you have when you get up in the morning and you have a busy day and your phone is already on 12%. You're starting the day on 12%. So many things that you have to do throughout the day. You could very easily create this energy or atmosphere where now you're going through the day starting off stressed. And that's my question for you. How do you start off the day? What's your standard energy level when you wake up? How do you matriculate through the day? Do you operate at a high energy? Do you operate on very low energy? Have you gotten accustomed to how much energy you know you need to expend? So you sort of flatline and you just ride this consistent monotone of energy type where you just know exactly, I'm just going to give as much as I need to give, and I'm not going to go any further beyond that. I'm not going to go any below that because I just need to get done what I need to get done. What's your energy level? How much energy do you have available? These questions are so pivotal and so vital because if you don't know what you're starting off with, then when you start to budget what you have left, it is very easy to slip into a deficit. It's very easy. People who budget their money are consistently looking at their account. What would I look like budgeting my finances and never take a look at it? Oh, well, I think I may have this amount of money, so I'll just build a budget based on my assumption. That would be a recipe for disaster. To set up a plan to budget my money and never look at the money. And oftentimes we make these choices throughout our lives. We set up opportunities to cipher out our energy by the commitments that we make, by the things that we say that we will do, for the things that we take on throughout the day. And we haven't even stopped and taken an assessment to see, do I have the energy for that? Do I have something left in the tank, not just for me to be present, but for me to be effective? Because that is a specific difference in how we should approach life. So many people just want to be present, but it's not about being present. It's about showing up and being able to be effective. So we need to know firsthand what our energy looks like, because we are just moving unconsciously from one thing to another. And we don't stop and check that to make sure that even though we may be connected, what's actually being ciphered into us? What are the things that we're doing to actually refill our battery? What are the things that we're doing to actually refill our tank? Or are we just at the gas station with the gas pump in the car, but never lifting the handle so that the fuel can get into the vehicle? Imagine if you pulled up at the gas station, you got out, and you were moving so fast, you're on your phone, you're doing multiple things at once, you're trying to talk to the kids, you're trying to make sure that you handle this business deal, and and so you get out, you open up the gas tank, you take the pump, you put it in the gas pump. You raise the lever, but never put your card in to pay. So while you've gone through the motion of taking the pump out, putting it in the car, lifting the lever, we haven't done what was necessary for you to gain access to the fuel. So this is why we have to be intentional about understanding where our energy is, how much we have available, how to assess our energy levels. I'm telling you, if you missed the last episode, go back and listen to the energy budget part 1, because it laid a foundation for where we are going to build today, of knowing how much energy we have, how to actually communicate our levels of energy, and knowing the dimensions of our energy. Because there are 4 different dimensions. And we talked about that. We looked at some research based on, according to Dr. Jim Loehr, Loehr. And we talked about the 4 different types of energy that we have and that we feed off of. The first one was the physical energy, which is where oftentimes people only assess when it comes to energy. Do I have the physical capacity to do what I'm being asked to do? Do I have the physical capacity to go pick you up from the airport and take you home, even though I asked you if you had a ride before you went? Do I have the physical capacity to take on this new stretch assignment at work, even though my workload has been stacking because I keep taking on new assignments? Do I have the physical energy? Can I push past and will myself to do what I'm being asked to do? This is where most people stop. When you talk about energy, they want to talk about physical. Physical, according to the research done by Dr. Loehr, is the quantity of our energy. It's how much do I have available? Hey, can you come pick me up? Do I have the physical strength to do so? Yeah, I'll do it. But what we may not stop and assess is the other levels or types of energy that are always at work when we are in operation. So we're always talking about our physical energy, and I may have the physical energy and strength to be able to come pick you up and take you where you need to go. But what I might not have considered is the emotional energy that I have available, because the emotional energy is the quality of our energy. The emotional energy is the quality. It's not just how much I have available. It's the type or the quality of how much I have available. Do I have the type of energy where I can go have the physical strength to go pick you up and take you where you need to be, but have the emotional capacity to be able to support the conversations that I'm going to have? Or am I at my emotional depletion state to where I could be there, but I won't be effective because I can't engage because the conversation is now stressing me? We have to start understanding the levels of our energy that we have available. It's not just physical, it's emotional, it's mental. The mental is the focus of our energy. Where am I aligning it? Where am I focused? Do I have the ability to focus my energy right here? If I have already 12 open assignments, do I have the mental capacity to be able to focus my energy on one more? And then do I have the spiritual capacity? Because the spiritual energy is the force of our energy. It is the force behind everything that we are able or desiring to do. So I got to know, hey, can you come pick me up from the airport? Okay. Physically, I feel good. I know I can physically, but emotionally, it was a tough week. And I know that if I get in a car with you and we have an hour ride, the types of conversations are going to be quite toxic to where it's going to drain me emotionally. And then it's going to cause me to be more focused on toxicity when I'm trying to really get into a space where I can build something effective. So then my mental energy, which is my focus, is going to be off because I'm going to be so consumed with the conversations and I know the things that you're going to talk about. So I may have the physical strength, but then my emotional and mental energy, I don't think that I have enough available to actually come and pick you up and take this ride. Because here's the truth. Every energy exchange happens with or without your consent. Every energy exchange happens with or without your consent. Just by being engaged in a conversation, just by being around a conversation, there is an energy exchange that's happening because you are open and susceptible to everything that's going on around you. And while you may have the physical strength to maintain your commitment, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual strength may be wavering, which will cause your physical strength to be depleted at such a high rate. This is how, when we get done with conversations, with interactions, with things that we said that we would commit to, we are physically drained. Because while I had the physical strength, my mental and emotional capacity was so weighed down that it zapped all of my physical energy. And all I did was drive you from the airport to your house. How many conversations are we stepping into and having the physical energy to be present, but not the mental and emotional and spiritual energy to be effective? Think about that. How much of our time are we invested in a space where I am here, I'm present? You know how they used to do the roll call at school? Johnny, present. Will, present. Bobby, here. It was always someone who wanted to switch up the cadence. And to be very honest, I was probably the person. They call him present, present, present. Will, yep. Just for the fun of it. I'm a disruptor. Pray for me. But what I had to realize is that we can be present, but not effective. And a lot of your effectiveness may be limited to the fact that you have the physical strength, but mentally you're wore out. You have the physical strength, but emotionally you are wore out. And what do you do when mentally and emotionally you are drained, spiritually empty, but physically you're trying to push yourself past the places and spaces where you're supposed to stop, recharge, and refuel? If you pulled up at the gas station and put the pump in, sat for 5 minutes on your phone, got out, put the gas pump back, never even looked to see if there any transaction took place on the pump, got back in the car, started driving, and your gas light came back on, what would you say? What would you say? I'm going to tell you what most people would do. Most people would turn around, go back to the gas station, walk into the gas station, and start to have an exchange or interaction with the gas station employee, blaming it on the gas station. I came and I put my card in and I pulled up and I put the gas pump in and I put the lever and I thought I was fueling my car and I left and nothing happened. It's something wrong with your gas station. It's something wrong with the pump. No, there's nothing wrong with the pump. Because when I just reviewed the footage, I saw you get out. I saw you go through the motions. I saw you pick up the pump, put it in your car, raise the lever, hit the automatic flip so that it would fuel on its own. What I didn't see you do is pay. So while you are looking for something to be received, you didn't make the investment to make sure that you were being invested in or poured back into or refueled. And so many people are going through the motions. Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. Okay, you need me to do something else? Okay, yeah, I'll do it. Sure. Oh, you need me? Yes, I'll be there. Oh, you want me to do that for you? Yeah, I'll do that. And we're going through the motions, but we're not stopping and taking an intentional time to assess to see, one, how much of the energy I have available. Two, when was the last time I refueled? When was the last time I recharged? When was the last time that I just stopped and took a moment to breathe? We need to be able to understand how much energy we have available, and not just in one quadrant, in all aspects. You need to start asking yourself, when people start asking you things to do for them, you need to pause for a second and say, okay, how much physical strength do I have? How much physical energy? Okay. Do I feel strong? Okay. Yes, I do. How much mental energy do I have available? It was a tough week. Yeah, I was kind of stressed the past couple of days. So my tank is a little empty. I don't know if I'll be able to be effective. What if you start doing this in your relationships? Well, at the end of the day, when you got home, you did an assessment. Hey, how was your day? Because that's what we do. We say, how was your day? And you can tell when your energy is wavering because your answers get shorter. Oh, it was okay. The second question we need to start asking is, how much energy do you have left? What if we did this? What if you came into your home with your spouse and you asked, how was your day? You gave the rundown of the day. Okay. Now, how much energy do you have left? Well, physically, I'm okay. What about mentally? Mentally, it was pretty taxing. So I don't have as much as I would like. Ding, ding, ding. What does that mean? That you may be a little shorter than normal. You may not have the capacity to have a deep conversation tonight. Emotionally, how much energy you have available? You know, it was really hard because I expected someone to do this for me, and then they didn't come through, which made my workload to be more increased. And I had to make a lot of pivots, and I had to do this and I had to do that. And it really had me frustrated. So that frustration that I carried throughout the day kind of zapped me emotionally. Okay, ding, ding, ding. What does that mean? If I'm looking for some emotional support, maybe I need to not put you in a place where you are unable to be effective tonight. Spiritually, how's your energy? Well, I gave everything I had, and, I was very intentional about pouring everything I had out into this moment. And I wanted to make sure that I was fully committed. So with every fiber of my being and my spirit, I gave it all. Okay. What does that let me know? That spiritually, the force that you have is depleted. So while you may appear to have the physical energy, we've already assessed the budget that you have left. Now, in order to be effective, to make sure that you are effective, not just in the things you have to do externally, but being able to come home and be effective internally inside the house, you have to have an energy budget. Because this is what a lot of people do, is we give all of our energy to the things that we have to do externally. And then by the time we get home, we are exhausted. What does that let me know? I might not have budgeted my energy correctly. If I go do everything that I need to do externally, and every time I come home, I'm exhausted, my budget is off. because I know that I need a certain amount of energy for me to do what I need to do at work. You know that you need a certain amount of energy to do what you need to do at the gym. You know you need a certain amount of energy to make sure that you are consistently operating at a high productivity level. But you also need to factor in that you have a certain amount of energy that you need to be effective at your home. When you come home, guess what? The kids don't care that you had a long day. Kids don't care that you are emotionally, mentally spent. So you have to be more strategic about the energy budget. And I can hear you. I can hear you. Well, Will, how do I do that? I'm so glad you asked. It's such a great question because I'm going to give you tools on this episode to show you how to not only proactively prepare and to make sure that you have enough energy to operate at a high level of effectiveness in every area, but also to have strategic tools to make sure that you are protecting your energy and refueling as consistently as possible. To make sure that you are refueling as consistently as possible. So we're going to go through this. We're going to talk about each one of how you can be intentional about making sure that you are establishing a healthy energy budget and how you can stick to it. What are the parameters that you need to put in place to make sure that you are not overextending, that you are not pouring too much in one area, not enough in another, that you are not creating emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical deficits. We're going to talk about it today. So let's dive in. We're going to go one by one. Let's start with the physical space because this is oftentimes where most people like to dwell. When you're talking about your energy budget, most people like to dwell in this place to say, okay, how much physical energy do I have available? You assess that according to two things that are also in alignment with how you refuel. Physically, you can assess your energy by how much quality sleep you got and the sustenance that you are putting into your body to continue the motor running. So your sleep and your sustenance. This is, if you're going to be intentional about your energy budget, can I tell you something? You have to become more intentional about scheduling your sleep. Not falling asleep, scheduling your sleep. This is a fundamental difference in people who are ultra successful and people who are semi successful. I get it. You got to grind. You got stuff to do. But if you're going to be strategic about longevity and minimizing your burnout and making sure that you have a budget of energy available to operate at a high level all day and not have that 3 p.m. crash, I'll be very honest, that I used to have all the time. Because I would work and be up all night, and then I would sleep poorly and get up super early, and I'd be operating at a high level from 6 a.m. oftentimes, or maybe starting at 4 a.m. I'll be operating at a high level from 4 a.m. to 3 p.m. And at 3 p.m., it's the crash. Why? Because I wasn't becoming intentional about scheduling my sleep. What is the time I need to be in bed in order to get a certain amount of quality sleep? Because just because you are asleep, just because your eyes are closed, just because you're not awake does not mean your sleep is quality. If you're not entering into REM sleep, where it's that deep sleep where your body now has an opportunity to recover, where your body has an opportunity to be refueled, to be refreshed. If you are not in a space where you're actively in a REM state of sleep, guess what? While you may wake up feeling semi-refreshed, you'll still be tired. You'll still be tired because you still have to be in a space where your body is craving more quality sleep. So you got to figure out, where am I? And why am I not strategic about scheduling my sleep? Why? Because I got a show I want to watch. So guess what I'm doing? I'm sacrificing physically so that I can refuel emotionally. Because this is what happens. is in order to budget effectively, we got to look at how all the factors are tied in. What most people do is you'll have a long, stressful day. And at the end of the night, what you want to do, you want to refill mentally, emotionally. So you'll stay up, you'll watch your shows, because guess what? That's pouring back into you mentally. It's giving you an opportunity to just turn off, right? It's giving you an opportunity to feel more connected, or you'll stay up and you'll do things and play games with your friends and your family. Why? Because it gives you an opportunity to refuel. But while we're looking at that, if I become intentional about saying, okay, I know I have to work from this time to this time, let me now set up a schedule to say, hey, when I get home proactively, this is what we need to do. Let's do this at this time, and then let's do this at this time. So that way we can all get in bed at a certain amount of time and my body has a chance to recover fully. So physically, are you scheduling your sleep? And here's the next part. Are you scheduling your meals? This is how you sustain physical energy. What are the strategic things that you're doing in order to make sure that you are scheduling, having a plan for your sleep and having a plan for your meals, your sleep and your sustenance? You have to have a plan, because we oftentimes treat our bodies like we treat our cars. You know, when your car gets to close to E, and sometimes some of us, the light comes on. You see the gas light and you know, okay, well, maybe now I need to start being intentional about finding a gas station, because I know when that light comes on, I have about 17 miles. 17 miles in order till I really, really get to E. And I've only known that because I pushed it so much that my car ran out of gas. This is how we treat our bodies. Well, we say, okay, I know I need, I'll get a few hours. You start to wake up and you're yawning throughout the day, and you say, okay, well, maybe I'm gonna just now, because I'm starting to be sluggish and my productivity is slipping and I'm falling asleep at work. Okay, now I'll be intentional about sleep. But if you're going to have an effective energy budget, you got to be able to plan out your sleep and your sustenance. What are you eating? When are you eating? Do you know how many calories your body needs? Do you know how much protein your body needs? Do you have a plan to say, I'm going to eat at this time and this time? This is going to be my snack. This is when I'm going to do this. Do we? Because that is the maintenance plan for your body. I'll be very honest with you. When I'm very busy and I'm running, this is the main thing that goes, are my meals. My days get started at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm running till 7, 8 in the evening. Sometimes I can't tell you how many times, and I'm telling myself, I'm not saying I got this perfect, but I know this plan works because I've implemented it. I know it works. I can't tell you how many times I've been gone all day and didn't eat, because I got up and got moving, and it was one thing after another, after another, after another. But what happens? My body starts to pay for it. At the end of the night, now I'm sluggish. Now mentally, I'm irritable because I haven't eaten. So now my mental energy, I can't focus it to where I need to focus it. And now trying to be present in moments that I need to be present and active and effective in, now my ability and capacity gets limited. Why? Because I wasn't intentional about getting something to eat. Just having a plan to say, okay, I know I'm going to be going from this time to this time. I need to eat at this time. Because if I don't eat at this time, then I'm probably not going to eat for the rest of the day. But I have to have a plan for my sleep and my sustenance. How much are you scheduling? Because you're only as good as your schedule. Your budget is only as good as the scheduled plan that you have available. So you have to start scheduling what? Your sleep and your sustenance, if you are going to maximize physical energy at a high level and remain effective. So what are the things that you're scheduling? Your sleep, your sustenance. Now, for your mental aspect, this is what you have to be intentional about, is how are you creating places for safety? What do I mean by that? In every moment, oftentimes we are placed in difficult situations where the trauma response kicked in, and now we try to figure out if this is a fight, flight, flee, fawn. What is this state? And mentally, we're in this place where we're trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do here? So, in order to sustain a high level of mental focus, where you are focusing your energy, you have to be strategically placing yourselves in places of mental safety. So you have to be intentional on how to place yourself in areas that are mentally safe. How am I putting myself in places where mentally I can succeed? I'm making sure that I'm putting myself in an environment where I don't feel the need to fight or to flee, or I don't feel the need to resist. I don't feel the need to close in and to internalize. I'm putting myself in places where I am mentally safe, because then I can focus, I can thrive, because I'm strategic about the atmosphere, because our atmosphere enters into our perspective, which starts to shape our mindset. What we see, what we observe, we then interpret. It filters into our mindset and it comes out into our behaviors. So I have to be intentional about making sure that I am putting myself in places that are mentally safe. And one of the things that I can do in order to sustain a level of mental safety is make sure that I am scheduling places and people and things that are toxic in a way that I don't become overly overwhelmed by them. What does that mean? That if I know I have to interact with people because this is life, and when life happens, I have to have a plan. So in moments where I feel like I have to be on guard, if I know that I have to be in those places, then guess what? I become strategic about my schedule. I know we have to interact with one another. So I'm going to make sure that our meeting is from this time, from this time. And then after this, I have to break. I have to remove myself, because I got to be strategic about making sure that I am not allowing all of this mental pressure, all of this toxicity, all of these corrupt communications, or whatever you may call it, filter into my mindset and start to shape how I view, how I see. I have to be strategic about the people that I'm connecting with, the people that I'm around, because if I'm around people and the only thing that they're doing are talking about things that are going to create toxic loops in my mind, then I am setting myself up for a place where mentally I'm not safe. When you become strategic about your energy, you realize, I can't hang out with everyone. No, I know everybody's going to do that. I just can't. Now, this isn't about the fact that I don't like you. It's not about the fact of me being mean. I just know what happens in an atmosphere, and I have to put myself in places where I'm mentally safe, because energy exchange happens with or without my consent. I don't have to be talking to you. I can just be in a room where I hear the conversation. So I'm strategic about my mental safety by knowing I can't be in every room. I can't be in every conversation. I can't be in every relationship. I can't go do everything that everyone else does, because I have to put myself in places that are mentally safe. So when it's time for me to focus, I'm laser focused. I went and saw over the weekend. My wife took me. This was past Father's Day weekend, and one of the things that we did, she treated me so well. After we celebrated her birthday, was the 12th, and then we celebrated Father's Day, and we went to see the Bad Boys movie. I am a Bad Boys fanatic. I love the Bad Boys movies. It's my favorite movie franchise. I've seen all of them. And this one did not disappoint. It was really done well. And there was a moment within the aspect of the movie where Mike Lowry, the character is played by Will Smith, his wife had been abducted. And he had an opportunity to take out the guy who was holding his wife, but he had been having panic attacks and his focus was off. So he could not actually align the shot. And everyone was looking at him like, Mike, take the shot. The shot is right there. And he said, I don't have it. I don't have it. Even though the shot was readily available, he didn't have the shot. Why? He couldn't focus. Why? Because his mental focus was off. So many of us are like that in that scene where we know what we need to do in this moment, but I just don't have the shot. I see it, but I can't lock it in. I can't focus. Why? Maybe because you spend so much time in places where you are mentally unsafe that when it's time for you to operate at a high level, you don't have the shot. So you have to be strategic about your safety. So we see from a physical standpoint, you need to be strategic about your sleep and your sustenance, scheduling, both of them. From a mental aspect, you need to be very strategic about your safety, your mental safety, so that you can focus on at a high level. Emotionally, you need to be strategic about your sentiment. What are the sentiments in your heart, and how are you curving them? How are you developing them? What are the things that you're doing to make sure that you have a proper emotional perspective about where you are and what you're facing? What are your sentiments? Because if you're not emotionally in a space where you're being strategic, then what you will do is you'll set yourself up for moments where you are being emotionally let down. So, what are your sentiments? What is your view? What's your attitude about this situation? How are you emotionally managing your sentiments? You know, you have those moments where you say something and you were around somebody and they said what you were thinking, and or you said what they were thinking, you were feeling the same things. You said my sentiments exactly, right? What does that say? My attitude, my perspective, how I view it. We view it the same way. If I'm not strategic about making sure that I am managing my attitude about if I am not intentional about managing my attitude and perspective about where I am and the situation at hand, then my emotions will begin to deplete at a very high level. Why? Because I am allowing my negative emotional sentiment or my attitude and perspective to cipher out my emotional energy. So I have to be strategic about setting my sentiment. Emotionally, I am setting every day my attitude and my perspective about this situation. I can't allow my attitude, I can't allow my sentiments to be dictated by what I see, to be dictated what's around me. I have to be making sure that I am leaning into my spiritual reservoir to make sure that my sentiments are set up correctly. Because if you're not strategic about setting your perspective, if you're not strategic about aligning your focus and making sure that your attitude is right before you step into places where life is happening, then you'll get into it. And guess what? You enter into that emotional wind tunnel where now everything is up in the air and you don't know what to think. You don't know how to feel. You don't know what to look at or what to believe. But if I'm intentional about setting my sentiment, that my attitude and my perspective is set up, that when I walk into this, it may not be what I thought it was, but guess what? It's going to turn out on the end, it's going to be good for me. This may not be what I asked for, but guess what? I'm being developed because of it. We may be in a rough spot, but guess what? We've been through worse and we're going to come out of this just like we did everything else. When I'm setting my sentiment emotionally, I can maintain a high level of emotional effectiveness because my energy is consistent and it's high. But if I don't set it, guess what? Then my perspective starts to now cipher out all of my emotional energy. And this is how people become cold. This is how people become jaded. This is how people become rude. I used to manage a team at the airport that I worked at. And one of the things that I used to see, and a lot of people who work in the airport or gate agents, or they've experienced a lot of disrespect, a lot of torment from people. They've experienced so many different changes and everything is their fault. And because they take on a lot, what happens is that their sentiment starts to dwindle. And now it becomes more of a protective, hard layer. And now there's an inability in people to connect from an authentic, deep place to just be kind, to be nice. Why? Because emotionally, the energy that we have budgeted is at a deficit. So you got to make sure that you're not allowing your perspective to cipher out your emotional energy, because that is when people turn cold. That's when people turn hard. That's when people turn rude. So you got to be intentional about setting your sentiment. What are your sentiments? And then the last thing, when we're focusing on our spiritual energy, which is the force of our energy, it's the things that we have that actually fuel every aspect of what we're doing from a physical, emotional, and mental perspective. How do you maintain a high level of spiritual energy? You have to establish healthy standards. Your standards are the things that are tied to the core value proposition that you've made within your heart. My standards are the essence of what I believe in. My standards have to be tied to the root of my faith. What am I standing on? What will I do? What won't I do? And why? Because this is how I start to protect my spiritual energy, because my standards now become the barriers for toxicity to slip into my perspective, my sentiments, my mental safety. When I'm in a space where I'm intentional about make sure I'm setting standards, then I won't allow myself to settle, because when I start to settle, then I am taking my spiritual energy, the force of my energy, and I am putting it in places where it was not designed to operate. It's as if I am putting the wrong gasoline in a vehicle. Certain vehicles require a specific fuel, and your standards are the signs on your gas cap that says this is the type of fuel that it requires. So if you have a certain standard and you have established this standard, then it limits your ability to just take on anything, to just take in anything. I can't accept that. I won't accept that, because once I start allowing anything in, then it will start to mess up my internal operating system. It will start to cause my engine to run hot. And then now I won't be able to be effective, because I just allowed anything to come in and filter into my force. I need a specific type of fuel for this vehicle. I need a specific type of friend. I need a specific type of relationship. I need a specific type of job. I need a specific type of focus. And I can't just let anything in. Because when I'm intentional about maintaining a high level of spiritual energy, I am setting a standard that protects the energy, the force, the fuel that I need to run on. What are your standards? What will you allow around you? What will you allow in you? Because the force behind everything is your spiritual energy. So I have to be intentional about creating an energy budget, is one, in the physical realm. Am I scheduling my sleep and my sustenance? Get a plan, put it in action. Just try it for 2-3 days just to see how you feel. Do it for a couple days just to see how you feel, to see if you feel better, to see if you feel lighter, more energized. From a mental standpoint, am I putting myself in places of mental safety so I don't have to exert energy trying to figure out if I need to fight or flee, if I need to go inside and internalize, or am I trying to navigate this place where I'm always in this place where there's stress, and I'm always thrust into a moment where I'm uncertain and I'm uneasy and anxiety is building. Am I in a place where I am mentally safe? From an emotional standpoint, am I strategic about setting my sentiment? And from a spiritual standpoint, am I setting high standards? Some of you need to raise your standards. And for you business owners, guess what? That means raising your prices. I get it. You may have people who say, well, that's too high, or you've been doing this for so long. I get that. I know. But when I raise my prices, I'm raising my standards. And while some people may fall off to the wayside, guess what? You'll get a whole new clientele, because certain people won't even come if the price is too cheap. So you got to raise your standards. This is how we're intentional about not only creating, establishing, implementing an energy budget, but now managing every aspect of our energy to make sure that I have enough available to not just be present, but to be effective. Well, listen, I hope you got something out of this episode. That's all the time that we have for today. And if by chance you leave from this episode and forget everything that I've said, I need you to understand that you have everything inside of you already that you need to overcome and succeed when life happens.